Hey everybody, Ray Pastor, and tonight is part 3 of getting rid of debt. Alright, so first part we already talked about, which one, and if you haven't watched those, please go back and watch those. First part, we talked about tallying up our debt. Second part, we did a line-by-line analysis of everything we spent our money on in 1 month. Okay, so now the fun part. Now we're going to analyze that list that we created. Okay. So what we're going to do is, first of all, we need to know a raw number. So the first part of this list that we have, this itemized list, we have this list. So this is how I spent my money for the month. We need a raw number. How much do you spend just with all your splurges, your Starbucks coffees, your lunches, your car, all that stuff? How much are you spending? Then we're going to take that and we're going to say, how much do I make? We're going to come up with a couple different numbers here before we start talking about what are our options from here. So we're going to come up with a couple different numbers. And, you know, there's no one size fits all for any of this, which is why I'm kind of explaining you how you have to do it. So, okay, so we got this raw number. So I know that I have this raw number that I spend on per month. And then here's this number of how much I actually make. Now, if your amount that you spend is more than what you make, we're in a really, really bad place right now. Really bad place right now. So hopefully it's not. But if it is, we're going to help with that too. So, okay. So then what we need to do is we need to come up with another number. And the another number is, let's look at the itemized list. Let's go through it and say, what is here that I really just absolutely don't need? So first of all, you might look at this list and say, well, you know what? I'm paying like a subscription to whatever it happens to be, and I don't even use that. So there's like some really simple things that we can cut. Like simple, like, hey, I'm paying a membership to this gym that I never go to, or I'm paying a membership to Netflix and I don't use it. Whatever it happens to be. Hey, this is the easy stuff. So let's, first of all, so our first step here is to come up with the easy step. What on here is just easy? Can I just eliminate? Okay, so we got that. We got the easy list, right? So we have our raw number of what we spend. Then we have the easy list. The easy list was all the stuff that I'm not even using, that I don't even care about. That I'm like, oh yeah, drop that, drop that, drop that. Simple. Okay, so now we have another number. We have a new number. Hopefully we saved a little bit of money at this point. When I did that list 2 years ago, actually, I try to do it every once in a while. I found subscriptions that I was subscribed to that I didn't even really know and care about. Just different things like that I was able to save like instantaneous money. Even saving $5, $15, $20 can be a significant amount. So it's every little penny. Okay, so we got that number. So we have our raw number of what we spend. Then we have the, hey, we cut some easy stuff that we didn't even really use or care about number. All right. Now let's get some more numbers. All right, the next number that I want you to get from your itemized list is, what are some things on here that maybe are nice, but maybe I could probably cut it down a little bit? Like, for example, you know, I realized looking at this list that I went to Starbucks 25 times in the month. Can we cut that down to like 10 times or maybe just once a week, reward myself? I went out to lunch every day of the week, I went out to lunch 3 days a week. Can I just go out to lunch on 1 day a week, maybe only on Fridays, and I'll pack the rest of the week? Oh, I see I went out to dinner 6 times. Can we cut that? And I know I just used food as an example, but hey, I'm paying for that HBO subscription. And you know what? We hardly watch it. We do watch it and we like having it, but we have Netflix, HBO, and Hulu, and we really don't need 3 streaming services. So probably we can cut that. So let's go through. Let's make that list where we cut some things that might impact our lives a little bit. You know, and I'll give you an example of something me and my wife did. So we were, you know, when I did my last list of this, I realized I was paying $500 per month to have my house cleaned. We were having a cleaning service come in. It was $125 a week. I was paying $500 a month to get my house cleaned. When I looked at that and I saw it on that piece of paper, I was like, this is awesome. I like this service. But I can clean my house for free. Just spend like, a good, between me and my wife, like a good 2 hours. We can do basically what they do. So we cut it down. So, I was able to cut that down to actually once a month before COVID. We were just having them come once a month, and we were able to save, $375 a month because of that. So we're at the point where we're looking at what are some things I can cut, even though I like having it. What are the things? Okay, so we've got 3 numbers. We've got this raw number of just how much you spend. We've got the number of, these are things I don't even use or care about that I can just really easily cut. Then we have the next number, which is, okay, this is affecting me, but I technically don't need this stuff number. All right. And then we have a 4th number. And the 4th number is the, what can I live without? What do I need in life versus what don't I need in life? So for example, let me give you examples of things you need and you don't need. You don't need any streaming services. You don't need, you don't need organic food. You might not need internet. So we're talking like the bare bone. Like, what do I need? Like, I need to pay my mortgage. I need to probably have some kind of vehicle, but we'll get there in the next step, the cutting even further. But let's talk about the what do I need versus what don't I need. When I look at someone and they show me that they have a significant amount of debt and there's no chance of them paying it off with their current lifestyle, and they have a $650 a month car payment, we don't need a $650. So don't need. Boom. We got to cut that. We're at the maximum, the bare minimum. If I see someone has a $3,000 a month mortgage and they're in debt, I say, no, we can cut that down to, we need to move. We're at the serious number. The what do we need versus what we don't need. So look at everything on that list and say, I can live without all streaming services. I can live without a gym membership. I can live without going out to dinner ever. I can live without going out to lunch, Starbucks, all that stuff ever. What are the things on here? Let's cut all of it. Okay. Let's take a look at those numbers and see where we're at. What is our savings at each one of those numbers? So what is the savings of raw? So let's take like your raw, your how much you spend versus how much you have. If you have like $3,000 extra a month from just doing nothing, just you have it, and you only owe like 40 grand, we're not going to really need to do anything. We're just going to be able to pay that money off and talk about how we maintain and maybe cut back a little bit so we don't get into debt again. But if we're looking at these numbers and you're in negative here, or close to negative, maybe by a few $100s, close to negative, and you owe a significant amount of money, like 40 plus, 30 plus, even 20 plus, and we're negative or close to negative, like you have less than $500 to spend per month, we need to start looking at the next numbers on this list, because we need to come up with an actual plan, which we're going to talk about options and things you can do in the next part of this series. But we need to start to come up with a plan. We need to look hard at these numbers and say, how much money do I have right now to spend each month on paying down this debt? And I know how much I owe, but that number, like if I only have $100 or $200 to pay off my debt, and we owe like 50, 60, 70 grand, we're not going to be able to pay that off. We need to get that down further. I've talked about this before. The only ways we can increase the amount of money we have to pay things off or to increase our spending power is to either make more money or spend less money. So you're at the point right now where you need to spend less money to pay off debt. So how do we spend less money? What can we cut? So we have these 4 numbers here. And you can look at each one and say, look at the 4th and say, wow, if I cut everything out, like I can really, what are my options for paying this off? All right, so now what I want you to do, now that you have these 4 numbers, I want you to look at all the amount you owe and start to think about rationally, physically being able to pay this off with the amount that you owe within each of these four numbers. Because the next step, we're going to talk about options for actually paying it off, things I should be considering, things I can do to pay this off. So let's start thinking about it, and let's start saying, where do I fit in here? And unfortunately, I'll tell you the truth, a lot of people will post questions like, an example, we're $40,000 in debt, we are making just enough to pay minimum payments each month, and we're not paying down anything, and we don't want to cut our cars. We can cut all this other stuff, but they don't want to hear that they need to cut their cars, and they have $1,200 worth of car payments per month. And the only way they can potentially cut down their stuff is to cut out those payments. So this is where you need to start to figure out in this itemized list, what do I really need and what don't I need? You don't need a car payment that's $600 a month. There's no vehicle that's needed, that's necessary, that's going to be that high. If you need a truck for work, it's not going to be that much of a payment right now. So there's nothing that's telling you should have that or need that. We're not talking about, I really want a nice truck, or I want a four-wheel drive nice vehicle. No, we're not talking about what you want. We're not talking about your hobbies. We're talking about, what do you need for your job to get from point A to point B. That might mean selling your $40 or $50 or $60,000 car, truck, SUV, and buying a $20,000, a brand new $20,000 car that's going to last you for the next 20 years, or more like 10, 15 years. But if that's what we have to do, that's what we have to do at this point. We're at the point where we're looking at our numbers and figuring out how much money do we have to actually spend right now to pay this off. Because when we look at these four numbers, when you look at the last one with everything, you still might be in a bad situation. So we're going to talk about different options based on your numbers and what you can realistically do in your life. But right now we're at the cut phase. We want to cut things. The quicker we pay off this debt, the quicker we get rid of it, the quicker we can actually start to save and get past it and do better, and actually have a savings and a retirement account and all build up our credit and all that great stuff. So we're at the cut phase. Cutting. Yes, you're going to have to make sacrifices. Unfortunately, when you spend too much money, more than you have to make sacrifices to pay that back in a lot of situations. We're going to talk about all the different options and things that you can do, but you've really got to look at your list, come up with that raw number, come up with what can I cut really easily, come up with what can I cut that will impact my life, but I'm okay to do without, and then that final number of let's cut everything and see where we are realistically, how much money we have. All right, do that. And next, we're going to talk about what are our options now. What can we do? We figured out our numbers. We've got all the math worked out. We know how much we owe. Let's explore our options, talk about when we should do what. See everybody.